Hey everyone, how are you? Thank you for joining us for the Popcorn Frights Wicked Weekend premiere of A Ghost Waits. We are joined right now with writer-director Adam Stovall and his co-writer MacLeod Andrews. Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
All
Very
right.
well.
Where are you guys located right now? Why don't you share with the audience where you guys are based out of?
I'm in LA.
And I'm in Sunnyside, Queens, New York.
Nice, nice. My first question for you guys is, first of all, I love the film. I thought it was
Thank
very
you.
sweet. When I first was going into it, I didn't know what to expect. Part of me, when I was watching it, not to say it's related in any way, but I felt like a great double feature with this film would be Kevin Smith's Clerks. I just love there's a similar sense of humor to it. It's also because they're both black and white, but I was thinking a little bit about how much I loved that film when I first saw it in 1994, and just kind of gave me a very similar feeling while I was really enjoying A Ghost Waits. I think it's a lot to do with the characters as well. What were some of the influences? What inspired you guys to put this film together and to shoot in black and white and give it that kind of feel?
So MacLeod and I have been friends for a while now. We met on the set of another movie, and we spent a year trying to make another film, and we just could never quite get the money together. And so I was staying with him in LA, out in Santa Monica at the time, and I'd gone back to Northern Kentucky, which is where I'm from, to kind of figure out what was next. I had no idea what my next steps would be. And while I was back, my friends Brian and Jen Price, who live downtown Cincinnati, had me over to play this video game. And it's this first-person haunted house puzzle game called PT. And I started playing that, and it was me reacting to a haunted house. So, you're in the creepy bathroom with flickering lights, and the baby starts crying from nowhere. And I'd just be like, nope. I don't need to check that out whatsoever. I have all the time in the world.
But Adam, that's the point of the game. You're supposed to go in there. That's why you're playing it.
Bad gamer. I don't know. But so it started, like, that got me thinking that, like, there could be a movie in the idea of, like, a guy like me having to deal with a haunted house. And then shortly thereafter, there's this webcomic, Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal, and I read one where this guy asked this girl, MacLeod, I think you have that webcomic with you, in fact.
I do.
It's beautiful. So yeah, this guy asked this woman, what's the most American movie? And she says, Ghostbusters. Why? And she says, well, here's this movie where you have demonstrable proof of an afterlife, but the whole thing is about navigating government bureaucracy and growing a small business. America. And I thought, well, that's really funny, but also, like, yeah, I do want to see that movie. Because, yeah, if there's a ghost, that means there's an afterlife. I have so many questions. And that really provided the spine for what became A Ghost Waits. Was kind of interrogating the idea of a haunted house.
All right. And MacLeod, you co-wrote the film. My question for you is, how far into the writing process did you guys decide that you wanted to be Jack in the film? Or was that the initial intention?
Right. Well, I should qualify my writing credit. I do not consider myself the creative force. I'm sort of I came in more as a problem solver when there were sort of some plot issues or whatever. Adam and I would bang our heads together and kind of figure out scenes to address some of the questions that were being raised in earlier cuts and that sort of thing. So I was actually not involved in the inception of the writing. I think everything you love about the movie is Adam. That's all him. The
toilet scene is you, and that's like everybody's favorite scene.
I also improvised some stuff. I also improvised some stuff. So I mean, as to when it became clear I would play Jack, I think it was Adam's idea all along that I play Jack.
Yes, Jack was written for MacLeod, and if MacLeod had said, I don't find this character interesting, this movie would not exist.
All right.
This movie exists because of friendship and willpower. So the entire impetus behind it was the two of us wanting to make a movie together.
And how did the rest of the cast get involved? What was the auditioning process, the casting process for that?
So Muriel was originally written for a friend of ours, but she got cast on a TV show and didn't have time. And so I went to the internet, as I do sometimes. I had been following Natalie Walker on Twitter for a while. She's a great follow. She's just hilarious and brilliant, and you can you sense the vibrancy of her character through even just the text on Twitter. And then one night I remembered that she is an actress, she was an actress, and that I was like, oh, I should go to her website and see if there's clips, because I have a feeling about this person, but I want to see how they work on camera. And there weren't clips, so I emailed her through her website and said, hey, I'm working on this movie. I think you might be right for it. Can we talk? She said yes, sent her the script. She liked the script. She sent in a video audition, and it was just one of those things. We had been auditioning quite a bit of people for Rosie and Ms. Henry and et cetera. And just the second it starts, like you see the wheels turning, you see her working, and she's so present. And I just thought, like, she has so much energy that it's kind of like Robin Williams when he would have to sublimate all of that energy in service of a dramatic character.
Right.
His stillness like vibrated. And I just thought, like, I feel like there's something here, something similar. And so, yeah, I called her and offered her the role, and she said yes. We flew her into Cincinnati.
And that's where the film was shot, in Cincinnati?
Yes.
What's it like filming in Cincinnati?
We shot at the same time as like a movie with a real budget, and so we were like losing people left and right, just like, oh, I'm gonna go get an actual paycheck. So our experience is, if you shoot in a house with 6 people, you'll be okay. Cincinnati's a really wonderful town. People are helpful, and there's much more of a creative energy to it than I think a lot of people think. It's a very European town in the middle of America. Mm-hmm. Stephen Sondheim workshop shows there. I don't think most people know that. But like, people were so generous. We had no money. We had very little money. This movie cost less than a Mercedes-Benz. I sometimes say it costs less than a car, but it costs more than a Kia. So.
It also, it costs less than like a low tier Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah. Yes. But so, like, John Mark James is the man who owns the house that we shot in, and we ended up shooting there longer than he thought we would, and then actually having to go back and do pickups the following year and then the year after that. And he was always just like, yeah, whatever you guys need. I needed a production office. Curtis Sellers of Curtis Visual Communications was like, hey man, I've got an empty office at my production company. Why don't you just use that? And didn't charge me anything. People were so supportive, because I think it meant a lot to the community that someone from there was making a movie there using local talent and local hires. And it's set there. He does say Cincinnati in the movie. Yeah.
My question for you is, for both of you, what are some of the types of films, what are some of the films that really had an impact on you growing up? Films that you just loved, that helped mold you as a filmmaker and as a performer.
Sure. I'm gonna betray what a goof and doof I am in answering this question, but the 2 films that I always come back to as like could watch anytime, I just love them and quote them or whatever. Princess Bride, it's just so wonderful, and Willy Wonka. I think
those are both great films. They're classics.
Yeah, like the humor of Willy Wonka is so kind of just to the right of where you'd expect it. I watched it recently as an adult, some would say, and
certainly a taller person.
A somewhat taller person. And I started catching jokes that were for adults in there that I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I don't know.
You should do that with the Muppets sometimes. It's super fun.
And I guess, yeah, I'll bet. And I guess like based on this film, A Ghost Waits, you can probably see the sort of romantic side in me liking Princess Bride and this movie, you know, the kind of gentle playfulness. Oh, that I feel so weird being like, you know, you can sense my gentle playfulness. Creepy. Creepy. Wrong kind of creepy for a horror festival.
It depends on the voice you use. You could have said gentle creepiness, my gentle playfulness. So, what about you, Adam?
For me, it was a lot of Back to the Future. I watched Back to the Future many, many, many times, and in fact, I've cited like the network premiere of Back to the Future. They were showing the first footage from Back to the Future 2. And so I remember sitting in the basement of my house with like a Chef Boyardee pizza and my Back to the Future storybook. Like I wanted Marty McFly to be my best friend. That was it for me. That and Looney Tunes cartoons were huge for me as a kid.
Well, what's interesting is Back to the Future is my number one favorite film of all time. And I saw it more than 20 times in the theater when it came out in 1985. It's still my favorite film to this day, and my second favorite film would be The Shawshank Redemption.
It's a solid 2.
Yeah,
nice.
But no, I'm always curious to see like what films like that artists grew up loving. We've all picked amazing films. My final question for you guys is, I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't seen the film. But was it?
Doesn't this play after the movie?
Yes, but who knows? Someone might have missed the film and might come into it.
Fair enough. Okay.
Don't want to ruin the final act. But was it hard for you to decide to take the story in certain directions? I didn't know where it was going to go, so I was curious. Was that difficult?
So there was originally a different ending, and it was, if you can believe it, much bleaker. And I remember telling a friend about it, just like, I think this is, but like even just in that conversation, we were both like, we can't do that. Like people will get very upset, as opposed to the cheerful one we have now. But like, so one of the really strange things about this is that like, even though we didn't have much of a budget, we had it very quickly. And I was writing this by the seat of my pants. And I don't always know the ending when I start writing, but it's very important to the process that I figure it out, because the ending is the point. Your idea, I think, is your hook, and it's the start of the movie, and then your point is your ending in order to provide some catharsis, I think. And so I was out one night with my then girlfriend. We were having some drinks. And the Bangsons, the song that ends the movie years go by, were workshopping that show, 100 Days, at the No Theater in Cincinnati. And we had just seen that recently. And so we're sitting there and we're having drinks and she's talking about something. And I was just like, oh my God, like I know what the ending is. I saw that garage. I saw a garage. And I saw that sort of scene and that song playing. And I was just like, this is cinematic. If I can do this, I've got a movie.
It really, the song feels like something you would get out of a studio film. It's a really great song.
They're amazing. Yeah.
It's a really great song. And again, without telling people what happened at the end who haven't seen the film, I felt you ended it perfectly, because it is both a sad and a happy ending. It's both. It works on both levels, and it's a tricky thing to pull off.
I think one of the coolest things about art is that it allows you a space to empathize with societal taboos. And so what happens at the end of the movie is something that generally, if you talk about it, people shush you immediately. They like, oh, we don't talk about that. And even like, I obviously am somebody who talks about it quite openly. I made a movie about it. People still, they always have to qualify. Not that we're saying that should happen. And it's like, this movie, we don't have to worry about the 4 quadrants. We cost very little. We can speak to a few people. There's a musical called Title of Show, and a song in that is 9 people's favorite thing. I'd rather be 9 people's favorite thing than 100 people's 9th favorite thing. And I think the luxury of making a no-budget horror film is that you can talk to 9 people. And you can talk to the 9 people that you most want to talk to. You can say something that you need to hear because honestly, it's the best. It's some of the best advice I've ever been given. J.J. Abrams once told me, if you want to see something, somebody else out there wants to see it too. And this is kind of a manifestation of that. This is something that this is a movie I wish I could have seen when I was, 15 years old. And so the fact that I get to make that and say what I think needs to be said and get to make that with my best friend, it's such a privilege, and I will never stop being grateful for this.
Well, the love you guys show into the story, into the craft with filmmaking, the writing, you guys have delivered such a beautiful film. As Popcorn Frights is generally a horror film festival, we watched this and we're like, well, this is not a horror film. But, even people who love horror films are going to find something really fantastic out of this. And it'd be doing a disservice by not showing them, something like this. Thank you. Such a good film.
I think it's interesting, that conversation of what is and is not horror. Like, horror is what scares you.
Right.
Charlie Kaufman made a horror movie in Synecdoche, New York, because what scares him is the relentless progression of time. Like, I find elements of profound alienation horrifying.
It is. Loneliness can be a terrifying thing.
Yeah.
And that's the main part of your story is dealing with loneliness. I want to thank you guys so much for allowing Popcorn Frights to share your film with our audience here in Florida.
Thank you.
And we want to wish you the best of success with the release of the film, and hope that more eyes get a chance to see it.
We want to thank you. Weird little personal movies like this live and die by festivals taking an interest and giving it a life, and people, spreading word of mouth and letting it into their hearts. So it means the world to us to be a part of Popcorn Frights Wicked Weekend.
All right.
And though we can't see you, thank you everybody who bought a ticket and watched from the safety of their homes.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed.
We promise many hugs once COVID is no longer a concern, and we have an excuse to go to Miami now.
All right. MacLeod and Adam, thank you guys again. Wicked Weekend, Popcorn Frights. We'll check you guys out soon.